Hey, everybody, how's it going? Hopefully, you're having a great afternoon so far. Just like to thank everybody for joining us, and I would like to begin by recognizing that Manitoba Music was founded on Treaty 1 territory, which is the original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. I'd also like to recognize the strong Inuit community here in Manitoba, and that Manitoba Music respects the treaty in which our organization resides, and we commit to moving forward in partnership with Indigenous communities in the spirit of collaboration and reconciliation. My name is Alex Shani. I am the Industry Development Coordinator here at Manitoba Music. And if you've been joining us over the last little while, we've had a chance to hang out and have some different discussions with our MusicWorks program. And we are doing it again today. We've had Stephen Carroll, who is our good friend from Manitoba Film and Music. He's the director of the music programs over there, and he was helping us out the last few times with some rights management series, and now he's coming back to teach us a little bit more about some funding opportunities that we all have access to as Manitobans. So I'm really happy to have Stephen come out. We had Bonnie too, who was the music programs coordinator. We had a little bit of some technical issues there, but if she's able to join in at some point, you'll notice that she's here. Anyways, really happy that you guys are here, and I'm going to introduce Stephen so he can come and help us out with understanding the ins and outs of some of the programs that Manitoba Film and Music offer, and some funding opportunities. Stephen, there he is.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, no problem. I'll hop off the screen. I'll let you get to it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Bye.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us here. I'm Stephen Carroll, Director of Music Programs, Manitoba Film Music. My colleague Bonnie is here with us, but in spirit this time only because she is unable to get through with some kind of technical issue. So we may see her later, but likely it'll just be me steering the bus today, leading you through an overview of our music programs. So I'm the Director of Music Programs. Bonnie's the Music Programs Coordinator. Together we manage the grant programs we have at Manitoba Film and Music for you, the music industry here in Manitoba. So Manitoba Film Music was funded in 1986, and we've been in the business of delivering supports to the music industry and the film industry since then through grants, as well as tax credits for the film sector. And some investments on the film side. So I've got a PowerPoint here, which I'm going to jump into. I'm just going to kind of dial it up here. Hopefully I have the share screen function. Okay. Great. So just a little background on myself. So I'm a musician, and I have applied to Manitoba Film Music as an applicant way back in the day. I started my career here in Winnipeg and was a guitar player for the local bands and toured across the world eventually. Had a great career and achieved everything I wanted to achieve in the music business. It was a great experience, and through that I actually learned quite a lot of the ins and outs of funding. I managed bands as well, learned a lot about the music business in general, briefly ran a music venue here in town. So I've had a lot of experience that led me into this position here, and I've been in the position for about 7 years and trying to steer our grant programs to a good place and to support you all with all the great things that you're doing. So we have a variety of funding programs available. We have funding for tour, online concerts, marketing, video, recording, and business development. And it's just on the music side. There's other programs on the film side. So these programs are open to Manitoba industry. You have to be a resident here for 365 days. This presentation, we're going to talk a lot about the recording program. So I'm going to give you a brief overview off the hop of our general programs, as well as some changes that we've had. So this past couple of years, we've done quite a lot of changes to the programs. We used to have a requirement that applicants had to seek other funding from Factor, the Arts Canada Council, or other national funding bodies, but we've since gotten rid of that rule. So we've also changed, we've clarified some release guidelines. So when a song comes out, a single is the trigger for opening your account with us. We have a rule around what period of time you can come in for funding for our tour video and marketing program. So we've adjusted that, we've clarified that. We've added some rules regarding self-production to clarify that you can self-produce your records, as well as we opened up a couple initiatives to support the industry through the pandemic. So we have a program supporting artists who want to pursue online concerts, which is a maximum award per concert of up to $1,700. And then the marketing program, we've changed the rules, which used to have a tour date requirement, to remove that. So there's no concerts required to be part of the to submit an application to the marketing program. So a few tweaks we've made to try and support the industry. Only 2 concerts are required now for a tour application, and we also changed the insurance requirements for the video program. So a fair amount of changes, which is something we do every year, with just little small tweaks. Some of them were more substantive. We also increased the artist fees from $150 to $300 as the sort of standard rate that can be claimed. You can claim more if you get permission from us in advance. So a few changes I'm just catching up on, and I'll kind of get into more detail about our programs as we go through here. So this page summarizes our funding amounts that we offer for each of the programs. So tour funding, it's a rolling deadline, and it's open all year round, as long as we have money, and we will fund you in an annual year up to $15,000. Please don't expect to get $15,000 from us in one application. It never happens. We invest smaller portions generally over multiple applications. The online concert funding, as I mentioned earlier, is actually an annual cap of $5,100 per year, so like 3 concerts times $1,700. Marketing is up to $10,000 in support per year. Video program, there's 2 tiers. One is the $5,000 tier, where we have to have invested in the recording for you to receive that amount. Or for non-MFM funded recordings, you can come in for the $1,500 level. All these 4 programs just mentioned are all open all year round, as long as we have funds, and so it's a rolling deadline. So you apply in advance of you actually starting your initiative. Finally, we have the business development program. The business development program is there to nurture the industry. So we have programs supporting live music presenters, managers, labels, Manitoba-based music publishers. And there's 2 tiers, a $3,000 level and a $15,000 level. So those programs, we're not going to go into too much detail. This is pretty much all we're going to talk about. This is the only portion of the presentation in which we're going to talk about these programs. And I'm happy to answer any questions about these should you have them directly. You can set up a meeting with me. My email will be at the end of this presentation, or my colleague Bonnie, and we're happy to guide you through making an application for these funds. Somebody asked if there's a time of year when we actually don't have funds. Generally, around January, February is the lowest point in our pot of funds that we have. Our fiscal year renews every year, April 1. So after April 1 is when we're flush with cash, in theory, and it slowly gets drawn down on through applicants receiving funding from us. Thanks for your question. So going on to the next slide, we have 3 deadlines per year for the recording program. So the recording program is deadline based, unlike several of those other programs we just looked at. Generally, the program deadlines are May, September, and January, and we are talking about our fiscal year when we say year. So we have 3 deadlines a year. I mean our fiscal year. So the next deadline in our fiscal year, January 20th is our next upcoming deadline. That deadline is at 5 p.m. the day of, so applications need to be delivered to us prior to that time. So we're going to come back to the slide a bit later if you don't retain this. We haven't announced our deadlines for the next fiscal year yet. Likely the deadline will be 3rd Thursday in May and the 3rd Thursday in September, and then the third Thursday in January. Generally, that's when it falls, but we'll announce those in late March. So I had a question come in regarding our video fund for the year. As I mentioned, there was 2 tiers for the video fund. The video fund has a tier for at $5,000 level for artists who have received MFM recording funding, and for non-MFM funded recordings, there's the $1,500 tier, and presently the $1,500 tier is actually closed. So yes, that program for non-MFM funded is closed. But feel free to drop in questions as we go through here. I'll do my best to come in to address them as we go through. So just to get everybody oriented, I'm going to try and open up this link here. See if this is going to work. It looks like it's working. I'm just going to change screens here briefly to screen share an application. Give me 1 second here. It's a little tricky to do this. I have to share a new screen. I understand. Let's proceed. It won't let me do this. Great. Oh, it will in 1 second. Moving tab to new window. I'm so happy all of you people are watching me navigate the internet together. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Sure. So you should see this in 1 second. There we go. So I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of an orientation. So we're going to be talking a lot about our programs and the guidelines as we go through this presentation today. And at the core of this is our application form. And just so everybody can see it, it's right now we're paper-based. So when we're talking about applications, we're actually talking about this, PDF-based PDF application forms that you can fill out. They should be fillable. And in them, we ask for various pieces of information, which I'm going to go into today. So just for a little orientation for everybody, the first page is a list of all the requirements that we have in place that you're going to need to have to make an application, all the way through to receiving a check from us. Some of the pieces don't need to be in place at the time of application, but we will need them to be in place for you to receive funding, such as the business registration. You can apply to us. We do require that everybody has a registered business, but this piece can be applied for, can be submitted later on, because the company's office is often backed up and slow, so we don't let applications be held up by that. It's just if we need to write you a check, we got to write it to a company, and you'll have to have a registered business for that. I'll go into that a little bit later, but so here's a general list. It's just a quick little summary of the pieces you're going to need to have in place. We're going to go through each of those items in detail in this presentation. And onto the second page, this is where you put in your basic information. So if you've never seen one of our application forms, I'm just giving you a little tour, let's say. So you put if you're applying for the grant yourself, you fill out this first section using your company name. Go into the second section here. This is only comes into place if you're a grant writer, or there's somebody else representing you and they're like a manager and they're actually writing the grant for you. They'd fill up this section. This third section is really just about who's working with you, who the team is, and this is voluntary. The gender and diversity information here is voluntary for you to submit, but we do encourage you to do it because it's important for us to track the data and to get an understanding of who we're funding and if we're missing out on funding key communities. Some more information about you. So if you have submitted to Factor for a rating, which is the national funding body, if everybody's not familiar with them, they're called the Foundation to Assist Canadian Talent on Recordings, and they are the national funding body for the commercial music industry here in Canada. The SOCAN is simply a registration of some. The SOCAN registration is a requirement that we have that your songs, the compositions, if you are the author, are properly registered with SOCAN. SOCAN are the performance rights organization collecting royalties for you as a performer. So there's a benefit to doing this. Anytime your music is played on the radio, if it's performed live, there's a royalty that gets paid to you as a songwriter. So it's good to register. So we ask a bit of background. Have you outdated requirements for us, such as recoupment, which was an old rule we had in place for those artists coming to the program a long time ago, or a few years ago rather. We were delivering funding in the recording program in the form of a loan, which we've done away with. So likely any new applicants to our programs, if you're new to it, this is not relevant to you. So you can just put not applicable. And cost reporting. So that's for open files. So people that have previous applications open, we like everything to be closed up and organized. So we we manage that through making sure to remind you to get your cost reports in. Like if you've never made an application to us, it's not applicable. So you can just check that box. So this part 2 here, I'm getting my sections a little confused, but page 4, and this is just a summary of the project, what you're going to do, who's working on it, and your past work. So what category of genre you'd be qualifying yourself in, and then your past work, previous sales. Put your streaming numbers in here, okay? Just add them all up from all your streaming services. So this page here is pretty important. This is a page that the juries see. So when you're filling out your application forms, pay attention to making sure that you complete this section here, especially if you had past releases. Finally, this section here is the production summary. So everybody's working on it. Producers, mixing engineers, studio. Please fill this out. If you're self-producing, just put self-production in there. That's fine. And if you're managing yourself, just put self in there. Try not to leave things blank. It's better that these forms are filled out pretty completely and thoroughly. So as you can tell, one of the steps of making a grant application is you have to put some planning together, or you put your plans together. So you'll have to figure out what studio you're working with, etc. Right. Somebody's asked a question about what if we don't have any past works here? That's fine. Just leave that blank. And you can make a note of those kind of details. Let's say you're a new artist getting going. You can make a note about that stuff in your marketing plan. There's room in that just for you to explain who you are, a little bit of background, like if you've only been performing live or you haven't recorded anything, but maybe you've been doing some online stuff. You can mention all that detail in your marketing plan. So if you don't have previous releases, just leave it blank. Finally, you're going to put in some more information about the actual project itself. So your anticipated recording start date, your completion date, and most importantly, your release date. So as you can see, you're going to have to visualize the whole process for your recording from start to actually starting the recording to actually releasing the material. So for our grants, you have to submit demos. So these can be rough demos. The demos really, we'll talk about this in a little bit, but you're going to have to write down a little bit of information on the composers and when it was composed. And there's different requirements for each level, which we'll talk about as we go through this presentation. But 2 songs for a pre-production level, and then a certain amount of songs for the others, and I'll come back to that later. I just want to get you a sense of this application form. So here we require, this is where we ask for about the other funding. As I mentioned, there was a program change. So you're not required to seek other funding here, but we do encourage it. And please do indicate the place you've applied for and the amount requested. We give you a bit of a guideline, or sorry, a guide to making a marketing plan. This is what happens in part 5. This is just really for information, and this I cover pretty thoroughly in this presentation, so we'll come back to this. But if you ever need to refer to this, it's on page 6 of our application form, which tells you how to write a good marketing plan and what should be in there. Finally, the budget. We're actually redoing our application forms to remove the budget. So next time you look at this, there could be a Excel template instead in place rather than this section. But this is where you lay out all the expenses that you think you're going to incur. So you have to visualize what the expenses are going to be as part of this exercise, because you're applying technically in advance of the recording date. But sometimes you can apply actually a little after the recording, so you might be able to put in those actual known expenses here. But anyways, a quick overview of these forms. I don't want to get too tied down in the form, but you can refer to the budget page to get a sense of what kind of expenses are eligible. Those are also listed in our guidelines. Okay, so, and then finally you sign it at the end. some other just for FYI information in there. So I'm going to jump back to my other screen. Just let me move my screens around here. Thanks, guys. And going back to our PowerPoint. Okay, so this is where we left off. So we're going to go. So the next deadline, January 20th at 5 p.m. Our application forms are located on our website. They're downloadable, and we ask you that you email in your documents that you filled out, your completed application form along with supporting materials, marketing plan, etc., and demos via a Google Drive or a Dropbox. You can just send us a link for that. So fine to get it in a Google Drive or a Dropbox. That would be ideal. So let's get into the thick of it here with the program, the recording program. We have, what do we have? Five, six kinds of ways you can come at us for funding. Pre-production level up to $1,500, a level 1 demo, max award of $2,000, level 1 commercial release, a max award of $3,000, and a level 2, which is a maximum award of $10,000, and a level 3, which is a max award of $20,000, and an out-of-province program, which can come in either for the level 1 or level 2. So a lot of options, and it suggests you sort of reflect on where you are in your career, what you want to be doing with this recording, why it's pertinent for you to have this recording, and then look at the program guidelines and consult with Bonnie and I or your peers on which one would be the best fit for you at that moment in time. We're happy to consult with you in advance of making an application and direct you to the program level that we think is probably best suited for you and the one you'll have best success with at the juries. So we have a rule regarding when expenses can be incurred. So Manitoba Film and Music is technically going to advance you some money, and we're going to ask you to declare all your expenses that you've incurred at the end of the project, and we'll pay you the balance. We changed our rules regarding recording, where we'll now allow you to incur expenses up to 30 days prior to the application date. So if to explain this in practical terms, it's today's December 8th. You could have started recording your project on November 8th and made an application today to the program. Does everybody follow that? So there's a 30-day sort of buffer that you have. It allows you, those who are in the studio already, to make an application and potentially receive some funding. Now, you won't receive the results of your of the jury review of your application until we actually run the juries, which won't be till after the deadline. So just sort of keep that timing in mind. But for everybody's understanding, the window for the January 20th program is open presently. The window opens every time one closes. So they'll open on January 21st, the May deadline window will open. So you can apply for the May deadline anytime after January 21st, if that makes any sense to you guys. We made one adjustment to these programs, which I should highlight here, that not-for-profit music companies and organizations are now eligible to apply to Manitoba Film and Music's recording program. This is to allow legacy organizations working in music, such as WSO and Manitoba Chamber Orchestra, etc., to participate in our programs, which previously they were not able to. I have a question about the timing here that just came in. Eric has asked regarding when how the eligibility works for the 30-day rule. So if you were to start your recording today, and which I believe Eric is indicating that he is, he'd have to drop off the app on January 8th to be for that session to be eligible. That's right. So you've totally got it. So as I kind of breezed over a little bit when I was looking over at the recording forums with you guys, the program shifted its model. It used to be a loan-based program, and about 2 and a bit years ago, we changed it to be just a grant. So all awards that we issue through all of the music programs now are in the form of grants. So there's no repayment. Okay. So I'm going to speak over the next few slides in detail about each of the program levels to give you a sense of what the program is designed for, and perhaps which one is best suited to you and what you want to do with your music. So in response to COVID, a lot of studios were shut down, and people were looking at doing home recording to keep momentum with their careers. And so we created a program to sort of nurture that and nurture the creative process. So this new program is called the pre-production level. So this has been around this will be this, I guess, the fourth, maybe fifth deadline that we've had this. And this allows you to create 2 new works. So these works would be songs that don't exist yet. So whereas the other tiers, level 1 and 2 and 3, and out of province, are all actually directed towards recording existing songs, this is for creation of 2 new works. So the applicant would deliver, as the outcome of this project, 2 rough demos of the new works. And it's a $1,500 flat fee award. For this program, when you submit the music for the jury to review, you're actually going to submit previously released works. So something that's come out and been properly released across all streaming and download platforms, etc. And so the guideline is that the eligible applicant must be Manitoba artists who have commercially released a minimum of 1 single in the past 2 years, which is available on all streaming platforms, and they must be on those platforms at the time of the application. Okay, and we're also looking for people that have a professional track record in the field. Yeah, so this has been an interesting program to watch people use. So people are coming in as part of the creation process, getting ready to perhaps record a new single, to work towards a new release. And this is a program that's there to help stimulate that early creative process. So the next tier we're going to look at is the level 1 demo. Level 1 is split into 2 tiers. We have level 1 demo and we have level 1 commercial release. Level 1 demo is for people looking to work on new material in a studio, work with a producer for the first time, flesh out song structures, arrangements, etc. And it's not for release. So the plan that you'll submit for this, unlike for level 1 commercial release, 2, or level 3, where you're going to be putting that material out in the marketplace, here you're going to want to pitch the juries on why it's pertinent for you to receive this demo and what you're going to do with it. So it's more of a project plan. We do indicate in our application form what should be in a project plan, so you can refer to that if you want some details. But generally, it's what I just cited: working with a producer for the first time, some professional development opportunities, career development, and working on arrangements, etc. So right now it's a $2,000 award, and we'll cover up to 100% of the applicant's final budget, whichever is less. Okay, so if your budget's more than $2,000, we still stop. We'll cap you at $2,000 as our portion of the investment. We do allow you to do some home recording if you are working in partnership with an accredited local studio. The application is eligible. That was a tweak we did for COVID to try and assist persons who maybe were having trouble getting into the studio. Just so everybody knows, I should pause here because I realized I mentioned accredited studios. And accredited studios are studios that have registered with Manitoba Film and Music, and there's a list on our website. Generally, most people working professionally in recording are on our list. If a studio or producer that you're looking to work with is not registered, please direct them to us, and we'd be happy to steer them through making an application to become accredited. It's very easy, very simple process. But just to clarify further, accredited studios can be either accredited producers or studios. We don't examine those applications based on the building they're in. We're mostly looking at the quality of the producer. Like that's the main thing we look at. So as I mentioned, level 1 has 2 tiers. Level 1 commercial release is the stream for those persons looking to put out a new release in the marketplace. So this tier will invest up to $3,000, or 100% of the budget, whichever is less. So if your budget ends up being only $2,000, we're not going to give you three. That's what we're saying there. And if your budget's more than $3,000, we're still only giving you $3,000. Okay. This one, you'll want to include a fulsome marketing plan. So you really want to think about what you want to do with a single. What videos you want to make, what live dates you're going to do, or on concerts, what marketing initiatives you do, what social media initiatives you're going to do, what team members you're going to hire, and you're going to lay that all out in a marketing plan. And we're going to cover the marketing plan format coming up in a couple slides. Bonnie and myself are always happy to consult with you guys about marketing plans, and I know Manitoba Music are there to also support you in drawing up your marketing plan. And if you've never written one, they're kind of odd. It's not necessarily something that's very intuitive. It's kind of unique to the grant system here in Canada. They're pretty common in the granting system for the commercial music business. So if you have questions about that, refer to our application form, page 6, which has all the criteria for a good marketing plan in there. So here for this level, you're going to be actually submitting demos of the songs that you want to record. So these can be rough demos. That's fine. Just make sure the performances are really good. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the demos as we go later into this. So level 2 is the kind of intermediate level. Level 1 is a really accessible program. Maybe I should mention that. Level 1 is level 1 demo, level 1 commercial release. So probably our most easily accessible programs. They're designed for entry-level artists who are just getting going, as well as established artists. So, and there used to be a song cap on the level 1 commercial release. So we used to have it be 1 to 4 songs, and same with the demo, but now you can come in for any number of songs. Whereas level 2, it's up to for 5 songs or more, and the award is up to $10,000. So it's quite a lot more substantive investment. And so for this level, we recommend it artists who have begun to establish themselves and are more professional in their ambitions, look at coming in for this program. So you'd need to have a bit of track record is what I'm saying there. So artists who have maybe toured regionally, they've had some national award recognition, or they've maybe had some good radio play, or have high streaming or social numbers. Some kind of benchmark that shows that you have an audience. That would tell us at Manitoba Film Music that you're probably suitable for making a successful level 2 application. And for this level, it's 5 songs or more. And again, you're going to want to submit a proper marketing plan, fulsome, detailed. Probably 4 to 5 pages is what the marketing plan should round out to be, plus maybe some supporting documents, put letters of support in. And again, I'm happy to consult, and Bonnie is as well, on which level would be best suited for you. Because it's we really want you to be successful, where we don't really like sending out declined letters. It's part of our jobs. We much prefer to deliver happy confirmations of funding emails. Okay, so level 3 is the top level for the recording program. The investment we'll make there is $20,000, and that will be a little bit less, will represent 60% of the budget. And this is for top level artists who have already established themselves and will have met a previous sales threshold of 750 units or equivalent streams, which is like 1.2 million streams. And they would have had a national profile, or national or international. Release plans for this would be national to international as well, whereas level 1, it could be regional. Level 2 could also be regional to national, to international, whereas level 3, we'd expect the release plans to be national or even ideally international. So you really want to have a great vision for what you're doing and have that network in place to execute a national release campaign. If you're not in a place where you're not really set up to do that, likely the level 1 is probably where you want to be if you're coming in for a commercial release. It's still a substantive investment at $3,000. Yeah, so there's a little bit of information on each of those tiers. You can choose which one you want to come in for. All of these are open for applications right now, and they all are part of the jury program that form the recording program. Sorry, I have a question in here. Yeah, so there's kind of a nuance coming in, a very nuanced question coming in about the pre-production guideline, about having a previous track record with the project. We have let persons coming in with a new project where members of the band of the new project have a previous established track record. We have accepted those applications. But if you're interested in maybe digging in a little further, just hit me up over email and we can set up a phone call and we can talk about that rule. Speaking of rules, this is kind of where we're at with our guidelines here. So I'm going to give you a quick snapshot of our guidelines. I'm not going to go into everything. There's a fair amount of rules. Likely, most of them don't apply to you if you're just coming in to record in Manitoba and you're using a full Manitoba team and you're releasing something in short order. Likely, you're probably eligible for the recording program. If you're a resident of Manitoba, and you have been for 365 days, there's probably no issue. But there are quite a lot of rules there that put structure around it and answer a lot of what ifs. And there are some pertinent pieces of information in our guidelines. I encourage you to just take a quick breeze through of those, which are also available on our website under the music programs page. And today I'll give you a bit of a top line summary of them. So as I've said a couple times, programs are open to applicants from Manitoba only, except for the out-of-province recording program, which is a program designed to support Manitoba recording industry to bring in artists from anywhere in the world. So there, the Manitoba applicant is actually the recording studio or engineer or producer, a Manitoba-based person, to bring in an artist. In that case, they're the applicant and not the artist. But otherwise, the applicants, still rule remains the applicants have to be Manitoba residents. But in that case, it's a studio. So, I can go back to maybe, I didn't really have a slide on the Manitoba. Somebody asked me about the out-of-province grant. So I'll definitely talk about that. So there's two tiers for that. There's the level 1 demo or commercial release, which is $2,000 or $3,000 respectively, and the level 2 out-of-province, which is up to $10,000. The application would be made by a Manitoba producer, engineer, or studio, and they could bring in an artist to record here. Only the Manitoba expenses are eligible. That covers that one generally, but I'm happy to have a meeting about that and discuss it further. So with that, as the applicants have to be Manitoba resident, they have to have a registered Manitoba business. Why is that? It's because we don't fund artists directly. We fund their businesses. So we're in this support. We operate funding businesses as sort of our main channel for supporting the industry. Unlike an arts grant, a basic arts grant, which you would get from Manitoba Arts Council, which will fund you as an artist, will fund you as a business. So you have to have a registered business. As I mentioned on the top, if you don't have a registered business right now, that doesn't preclude you from applying. You can apply to us. You have to have the registered business in place for us to write you a check. So that's only if you get approved does it really become pertinent that you have one. And it's a good structure to get going, to launch yourself as an enterprise and to structure your career professionally. You register for a business at the company's office here. You can just Google Manitoba Company's Office, and it's an online process now. So with that we only pay music businesses funds. You have to have a business bank account underneath with your company name. It's also a really good structure to have to get your career going and to put a good business structure in place to have a separate business banking account. So as I mentioned previously as well, we are now just encouraging you to apply to Factor or Music Action, which is a Francophone national music funding agency, or StarMaker, which are the top level for your projects. We don't require it anymore, but we do recommend it. There's quite a lot of money out there. If you're not familiar with these agencies, you can take a look. Generally, Factor is the most applicable to Manitoba artists, or if you're Francophone, Music Action. StarMaker is just for top-level artists who have reached quite high sales thresholds. Excuse me. As we saw in the application form, songs must be registered with SOCAN. And so just so everybody knows, it's free to apply to Factor Music SEO Star Maker. It's also free to register for SOCAN if you're not registered. It's also free to apply to Manitoba Film Music. There's no cost on our side, just your time filling out the application forms. Okay, so it's a question about business registrations. Generally, we ask you to have a separate business there's a question if they were self-employed. We still require that you have a registered business of some sort, but I'm happy to talk about that question offline with you, Rebecca, if you'd like, to go in, or Bonnie can help you, and we can talk about what business structures would be best for you to use to apply to us. So a few other rules to go over here. There's a couple things that go on in grants that are kind of unusual. Maybe if you're this is your first time looking at one of these presentations or looking at grant funding for your music project, we allow you to claim donated costs. So if you're working with a photographer and it's a friend and they're giving you a bit of a discount, you're allowed to claim a portion of that as a donated cost. And we cap that in our budget formulas at a certain percentage of your final expenses. Essentially, it's an artist-friendly way of accounting for the fact that artists were often getting fairly good deals from friends and family or whatnot on projects and on project expenses, and this would be represent a way for you to account for that in your documents. We have an administration fee built in, and that's caps out at $1,500, or 15% of the budget, whichever is less. It's a little complicated, the formula with the donated, but our new budget spreadsheets will do all this math for you. And do claim that 15%. We expect you to claim it. We have no apprehension about applicants claiming that admin fee. So that's an admin fee on top of your basic expenses. Now, we do hope that you pay as little of your expenses in cash as possible, but you are allowed to pay any invoice under $150 as cash. But please don't pay your producer like thousands of dollars in cash. We need to see a paper trail because we do a little audit of your expenses at the end, where you provide us with your list of expenses, as well as receipts, as well as proofs of payment for each of those invoices. So for artist fees, we do have forms that you can fill out, in which you can declare your own artist fees on projects. Yeah, that is allowed to be claimed. And in general, though, for all our programs, expenses are not eligible unless we receive the application, except for the recording program, where we have a 30-day window pre-application where you can incur expenses, which we've gone over earlier. So I have a question here. I'll just address it right now before we get into more details of the music recording fund here. Question is, can a previously released single that did not have radio tracking or radio play but is online, can that be used for a future EP or album for grant purposes? Yeah, as long as it wasn't so all material for the level 1 demo, level 1 commercial release, level 2, and level 3 and out of province must be unreleased at the time of application. Well, I guess within that 30-day window. As long as the music wasn't actually put on streaming services or YouTube, then it's fine to use that generally. But we're happy to talk about this in more detail with you, Nelson, if you'd like. We can set a meeting. So we have this program is a jury program. As we've been discussing, there's a January deadline coming up with 2 more within the year of 2022, May and September. And with that, we want to really make sure that the what you're presenting to the jury is really strong. So you always want to put your best foot forwards, not only in your documents, like what you're presenting, but also in the music. So really think about what songs you want to choose, play them for your friends, ask them for their input or your colleagues, or you can even send it to Bonnie and I, and we'll give you our 2 cents for whatever it's worth. You want to really make sure that the performances are great. It's like make sure the singing is strong, that the vocal takes are tight, and that the performances are, are outstanding. That ideally, that's what you focus on, not as much as the fidelity of the recording. Also, you want to have a good, a couple tips here. This is normally Bonnie's slide. You'll have a good solid plan. So you've thought about what you're going to do with the material, why it's pertinent to have it, and you've laid that out in a clear way. As well, you want to have good songs. So as we've noted, you want to have a clear and thorough marketing plan. And we're going to go into that in a slide or two. Oh, here it is now. So I'll let you guys digest this for a second here. I know this is a lot of reading for a PowerPoint, but you can always check our application form for this kind of overview, which I'm presenting here today. It's on page 6 of the application forms. Generally, this is the shape that I recommend people use for a marketing plan. You start with a project overview, 1 paragraph, say exactly what you're doing, who you're working with, why it's pertinent, like you're releasing your 2nd single, you're working with this producer, you're working in this studio, and it'll be released on this date. All of a sudden, in 1 paragraph, you've given the jury everything they need to know about your kind of project, and everything else you're going to say is just going to support that. So then go into your bio, no more than 1 page. Really long bios just bog down applications. So I'd advise you not to have long bios. And we don't want bios for every musician on the project. You can maybe have short bios at the end if you want to, but this is your artist bio. This is about you as an artist. Make sure it's not your CV, like or your resume. It's a professional bio. There's lots of bio samples and that online, so you can check out information on that yourselves, or check with Manitoba Music about bio writing. So you also want to indicate your recording plan here. So where you're working, who you're working with, when you're working, when everything's happening, the who, what, when, where, why kind of situation. Lay this out here. Who else is participating in the project? If it's just yourself working on this and you're leading everything, then indicate, that you're taking care of these tasks yourself. And that's okay too. As long as you demonstrate an understanding of the tasks and have the capacity to execute them and can convince the jury that you have, then that should be fine. So level 1 application, we're not expecting you to have a big team, like the juries are not looking for that. Maybe 1 other person gets involved. Often, early on in an artist's career, it'll be a publicist will be the first thing you'll get, because they're generally fee for service, which means you can pay them a fee and they'll start working for you and assisting you in your campaign. Whereas agents and managers are usually a little bit later, depending on your luck. But generally we see them come on a little bit later once the artist has sort of got a little more traction and something's happening, because they earn a commission. So then here in this next section is key. So the release plan, what you're doing with the album, when it's coming out, what maybe more territories, what video details, single release details, social media initiatives, pretty much everything you're going to do to market the record comes out in this release plan section. So again, this is a marketing plan, right? So a project plan for a demo, you wouldn't be putting necessarily all these things in. You definitely have the project overview, the bio, the recording plans, team details, and then here in this release plan, it'd be your project plan. What you're doing, when you're doing it, like why it's what you're going to do with it. I'm going to shop it to labels. I'm going to use it to flesh out arrangements, etc. This is where you make that pitch. And then, of course, if you are releasing it, then you want to have a release timeline. You're going to hear my dog barking because she doesn't like when anybody comes near the house, so that's happening. Hopefully she stops shortly. So the release timeline is just a list of the kind of the full arc of your record release, from the first single coming out or first video, or first social media teaser bits that you're putting out on regarding the album release or single release, to all the way to the end for it getting released, and perhaps afterwards too. It's just a long list of dates, really. It's good to think about this. When I was a grant writer and managing bands, I kind of didn't like doing all this heavy administrative work that is required from these applications, but I did find them useful as an exercise because they do lay out they do make you think about every aspect of your release plan. And I would end up referring to these, sometimes it was definitely there was an upside to planning. So finally, you can include some tour plans if that's a genre that you're doing, what live initiatives you're doing, online initiatives, and include past history as well. So it is quite a lot of info, but it's 4 or 5 pages. Once you've written one for yourself, you're going to find it gets a lot easier. So the next deadline, as I mentioned, is January 20th. Music applications, your applications need to be sent to music@mbfilmmusic.ca. And Bonnie and I are happy to answer any questions that you may have and advise you, and look at the applications in draft format prior to the application actually being received. And Manitoba Music are great advisors on this as well, so they have a lot of resources that you can tap into. They have good understanding of our programs as well. And keep an eye out if you are a first-time applicant. We do run music incubators with Manitoba Music, so they'll shout out to all the people participating in the Indigenous music development MFM grant incubator that we're running presently. I'll be chatting with you guys over the next couple of days, so looking forward to meeting everybody. And I guess that kind of wraps it up. I don't know, is there any other questions? Alex, anything you think I missed? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, there we go. No, it's been super informative as always. I know there was a lot of participation that was good. I'm really excited that everybody is going to be able to enjoy some of the opportunities that MFM offers. And yeah, if you, I'm sorry, you see up on the screen there, if you have any questions, make sure you hit up Steven at mbfilmandmusic.ca or Bonnie, who unfortunately wasn't able to be with us. Great resources. This is not even the first time that I've talked to them today. They're very approachable, full of information, and they're there to help. So with that, I guess until next time, Stephen, thanks for everybody for spending your lunch hour.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Really appreciate it. We hope to see applications from all of you guys. We really love working with the industry here, and are excited for all the great recordings that are happening and coming out, and looking forward to hearing all the early demos that you get to send us. It's a real privilege of our jobs that we get those early demos. Okay, guys, thanks again. And I'll stop screen sharing, and until we catch you next time.
All right.